Okay, I think we're live here. I think I've got my microphone unmuted, moving screens around. Still getting set up this morning. Apologize for being a little bit late. There's going to be mornings like this. Let me get back to my OBS. Where's my OBS? Okay, looks like audio levels are good. I'm going to still be moving some stuff in the studio here and commence from there. Okay. If anybody can tell me how the audio levels are, I guess if I type messages, it'd be good to have my keyboard on, right? It only took me 2 attempts to figure out that nothing was typing. Okay, I'm going to mute my phones. Okay. Okay. Mute the house phone. Okay. I just pulled the batteries from it. Okay. And so I've still got my, thank you, John, for telling me that the audio is good. Through and guess I can take the quick release clips off. Get that off from my neck. I meant to actually get, I have everything in the van too. Otherwise for more Ethernet cables, even got a switch in there this morning and an Ethernet switch. And then power cords, console cables. I was even going to use a ThinkPad. And she's telling me my mic is muted, unmuted, all that other stuff. So, did I make? Or she's still telling me that mic is unmuted or muted. Yeah, it's when I tilt my head, um, the way I have my headset that it mutes. But so yeah, my audio levels are back, maybe even a little bit high. Um, okay, so I said I apologize for being on both screens at once. In fact, let's go through. Let's get me off that one. I may have to get to the back of the. Okay, she's still telling me. Mic muted. Mic unmuted. Okay. And hello, Hugh. Down. I can't look down at all or my mic mutes. I'll have to adjust my headset. I'm still turning stuff off so we're not interrupted. It tells me the temperature. We're at a balmy 59 degrees this morning. I think we're finally again into spring again. I'm going to start getting stuff in from the vehicle. I got to post my sign here too. Get set up good here. You guys get to hear my blood glucose level. Okay. We have some people from Michigan here. I know that. Okay. I apologize for all the delay of this additional stuff, but I got a plate. It's these mornings are going to be like this. Oh, get back on screen here. Okay. And we'll start getting into the actual subject of the live stream here soon. Don't worry. Thank you, Hugh. Getting old is horrible, but it's better than the alternative, is what they say, right? Get enough of a. See, that's how my blood is. That I just want a little, and it can never get enough, and then all of a sudden. So 168 is my blood glucose level. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than what I'd like, but that's probably why I'm feeling bad. I was eating a few raisins last night and looked on the package. It didn't have too much sugar content, but probably did. So we're in the 30th even. It's been 4 days since I took my blood sugar levels otherwise, so I don't know why I'm spending time on it today. Okay. Got a good sample of viewers. Maybe we're through with things, all the other preliminary stuff. And yeah, I'll just bring in the ThinkPad when I get a little bit further with this unit. So let me demonstrate this a little bit. And okay, get that. Like I say, I always get a little bit too much blood out of my fingers. That'll be on screen here. So I'll get them organized otherwise. So this is a Cisco 3845. It's the bigger chassis unit. And okay, and I'm making sure to ground myself because I am feeling sparks and things like that. I realize it's bad to have these out from without any anti-static protection. But this unit, I had actually two of them, and I was supposed to turn them in. I turned in one of them. I kept the other one. A little bit sneaky there. This is years and years ago anyway, probably a dozen years ago. And they had 48-volt power supplies, so they're used within a telephone CO for that 48 DC voltage. And I actually had a token ring card before, and I put it on the unit that I turned in. So years later, here about, it's been a year or two ago, I went through and I had to repurchase the network modules. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to put up, I'll go through the first one. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad to see you here as well, Hugh. I'm going to go through. I've got things relatively arranged. And I can probably go in a little bit of my the background of why. Okay, we'll get that link in there in the chat. I apologize for snorting and everything else. I'm a little bit stuffy this morning. So and I'll have to be extra careful to ground myself as I move this around and as I go over the floor, just to keep grounded so I don't work up any charge, and especially don't not touch this across anything like just like a person with their heart. But I put the link up in the chat window, and that is to the at the Ardent tool of this particular module. Okay. And no, okay, that's the fast Ethernet. So ignore what I said. I thought that there was the regular Ethernet model as well. And so I wanted to go through in order of this. And so there's the interfaces. And this is the, defined as the Ethernet interface from Cisco, where, get on the right one here. Thankful to have my monitor off that I can see. So, Cisco identifies these as Ethernet. This is we have the token ring. Over on this side, we've got both the shielded twisted pair, the 9-pin cable that would go typically to the hermaphroditic type 1 connection, or connecting onto token ring MAW. And of course, usually people want to go through and use the unshielded twisted pair interface of that. And this goes through to where, and you can see the STP for shielded twisted pair, and then marked as token ring 0 for the interface. You have LEDs for the 16 megabit per second, and also the in ring, meaning it's part of the network or linked in, for the token ring side. Ethernet, as I say, this is 10 megabit per second Ethernet, and it has the AUI connector. And the AUI, of course, does not have the BNC, or the coax connector, but that being associated with the 10 megabit rate. Now, this has two positions for the WIC cards. I've just had the blanks. otherwise I have extra cards for this that go through to, they're typically like serial boards. And, who knows, might use them, but I've got a lot of positions on the unit that can have these. But here's a view, and having the token ring chips and Ethernet chips on there, even one on the underside. And these are even used on the some of the later token ring adapters that IBM had. So this is actually, it's the token ring is capable of either 4 megabit or 16 megabit, but the Ethernet side is 10 megabit. And so I've got the intentions of actually going through and having this board set to the 4 megabit rate, and the Ethernet being slightly a faster, to bridge over on the same card to the 10 megabit Ethernet. And of course, using the standard Unshielded Twisted-Pair, having connecting into my token ring hub, and then to an Ethernet switch on the Ethernet side. Now, token ring is a little bit different from Ethernet in that if you have an Ethernet network that's 10 and 100 or gigabit, typically without too much complications, you can go through and you can connect those to the same. There's an auto negotiation for the speed, the capabilities of that network interface on whatever equipment, and so you can have that 10 megabit connection on one device connected into like 100 base or a gigabit connection, and it just negotiates and communicates at that lower speed. The switch handling how the just that data flow, that connection, and of course Ethernet being a little bit more, starting out to where with Ethernet and with the coax cabling of going through and having data collisions, and that really impacting Ethernet, because as you added stations in those early days, you got more and more data collisions, and that was primarily, one of the or a token ring coming in to where it didn't have the data collisions, was not in the same sort of implementation. The machines had a ring, as they connected to the network, they rang in. And basically, if they did not have possession of that logical token, they weren't allowed to communicate on the network, which handled the data collision side of things. And of course, that was very expensive to implement as well. Took a processor on board, the token ring interface, and different equipment than Ethernet. Once Ethernet got into the nature of getting away from the hubs and getting onto the Ethernet switches, that switch going through and working with and separating, so there would not be data collisions on the network. Now, on the so particularly with PS2s, the microchannel interface, it is a challenge to find the Ethernet adapters anymore. Yet the token ring adapters are produced like crazy. There's still a surplus. People just throw them out as it is. Now, what I can do, in fact, I've got to pull up to do it. Might as well, before I introduce this next card, give a little bit more of my line of thinking. So this is this live stream is a little bit more of maybe, say, a discussion of the process. Hopefully we'll get to the point of firing up that Cisco unit, but let's see. But this is a project I really wanted to get going. It's set and languished for so long a time. Okay, I've got the link to it. Get back to my live stream. Okay, and no problem, Hugh. In fact, I really didn't notice your space key having an impact there. I've got a Bluetooth keyboard, and everybody knows how that is. To where there's sometimes where the you get a repeat or no impact. And it's funny because I have my Bluetooth keyboard, which is Logitech, pretty good otherwise, but it's on my Dell laptop, a precision laptop, and I got that salvage, and it's a good system, but some of the keys on the built-in keyboard are actually dead. It's pretty amazing. You can go through and you can type in what I use as my password, but not with it not using some of the letters, but some of the letters in the some of the characters on the keyboard are just dead. It's just really amazing, and the Bluetooth handles it, fine with the addition of the Bluetooth. And I'm going to have a external keyboard as well. But the let me go through to get to this interface board. Now, this is the same form factor here, and you can see it still has the positions for the WIC cards at the top, the smaller cards. I'll show a little bit of what I have as a spare. And of course, immediately you see the definition there of it changing to the fast Ethernet, what Cisco identifies as fast Ethernet. That is 100 megabit per second. And then on the token ring side, we don't really see that token ring interface change because the speeds are still where this board is either capable of the 4 megabit per second or 10 megabit per second on the token ring side. But we do see some indicators there of the in-ring, the 16 megabit per second if it's at that higher rate. They have the label under both interfaces and really don't have that 9-pin labeled as shielded twisted pair anymore. But you can see in that upper corner, it's marked as 1FE, 1R, 2W. And that Cisco notation, I'll go back to the older board as well, meaning that it's one fast Ethernet. The 1R means the token ring side of things, and the 2W is the two WIC card positions, whether they're populated or not. That's how this board is known or identified to be separate from the other token ring card. I'll bring that up on the screen as well. Here's the bottom of it. Even to some point, a little bit less elaborate. And we even had ponderings of whether some of these chips may be kind of more of a universal supporting Ethernet and token ring. Because when IBM got into the LAN streamer side, again, making sure I'm grounded as I move around, the LAN streamer had originally, and there's both the token ring and the Ethernet streamer adapters. But on the token ring board, they had Ethernet chips as well. It seemed like it was originally intended to have both an Ethernet and a token ring interface that could be used. Now that old board, or that other board, and this is actually doesn't quite have all the identifiers here, but it's got that 1E, 1R, meaning that rather than 1FE, the set Ethernet is at 10 megabit per second, and 1R meaning that it has the single token ring interface. And normally this has that 2W following as well for the 2 WIC card positions. Now there's other Cisco boards. I wanted to, in fact, these are a little bit of the original, and this had a fiber connection. This one of the boards. There's an NM1T3/E3, so that would be that fiber connection of a board, and actually pulled that out. You can see these cards, but just knowing that Cisco has different identifiers for these, and I actually want to get another fiber board for this. I'll pull down some of the WIC cards. Even had the coax fiber leads that that card used, to where, just an end where it went through to where, and I mean, I'm thinking that is, maybe that's electrical with the BNC connector. Maybe I'm not being knowledgeable enough on my fiber. Because that is electrical for that. That's not in any way, well, no, I guess it's got the window in there for that thin fiber lead going down the center. It's still early morning, so I can confuse electrical and fiber. This looks like 2 shorter leads, and it's probably got some identifier on there of, it's got like codes for the, that may even be like test results and stuff like that too, of testing the fiber. And then 2 longer leads for that. And then this board, it has even the WIC populated. And so this is an insert that just runs the 2, as you can see, the identified 2W, that if you didn't have a card otherwise, or need the interface of anything there, this is a spot that you could install the WIC cards in there, and just as a way to go through and interface them to the system. Now, I do have separate more of these WIC cards. These things are like a dime a dozen. I've got the blanks. That'd even be something, right, for having this adapter in there with the blanks. And of course, there are the blockouts in this case. And okay, as I say, I've got WIC boards and other interfaces. This is actually, well, let's look. So that's a T1. So WIC 1 DSU T1. That interface, that T1 interface. And see here, I've got the proper anti-static bags. I need to get more of these up here to put. There's another blank. There's this is probably another T1. Yeah. So I've got 2 of those. As I say, the WIC blanks. In the box here, I even have, there's 3 boards. Okay, and I don't think that this board is for, and it probably, yeah, it looks like the fittings are the same. It's just a different color. So there's your two T1s and whatever a DBU means. And it does have the same mounting, otherwise that looks like it's a different color, of course, and things like that. Of that, it's not a metallite plate, but it does look like it would fit in the wick. Well, I don't know. That's very similar, but very similar form factor, but those mounts and things like that are just a little bit off. This may be a particular board that they just kind of use the wick sort of look to it. Now this is actually I think this is ultimately a DSL adapter. Yeah, modem, wick 2AM. And there's all sorts of Cisco documentation on what these boards are. And then for this card in the plastic wrap, thankfully in the bubble wrap, so when I drop it at my feet, it didn't land hard anyway. That is protected. And what is that? ADSL. So wick 1 ADSL. Different from the modem. And this may be effectively to this other adapter. Let me get this plastic wrap to behave and not feed in on itself. And I'll pick up later and put all this stuff back in anti-static wrapping. But this is probably just a regular dial-up modem type sort of thing. Looks like it has connexant chipsets there, labels over the top. But that looks like a regular dial-up modem. That would be even interesting if I were still in a position of landlines and having a conventional phone line, which is kind of a nice thing to have sometimes with this equipment or to work with. And so let's get those tucked away. Okay, I believe, yeah, that's the T1 boards I already showed. I had more of the, well, I've got almost them mounted. So let's get back to, and I probably will have to clean up if I get to the point where the stream gets involved enough to get the ThinkPad in here. This would be probably the spot to put the ThinkPad. So we can go through and get inserting these again. Now this is the 3845, and it is a we will get, and it probably doesn't make any difference here. For giggles, let's go through. And as I say, I haven't powered this up yet. It's been, and I'll get showing a view of that as it is. Okay. Get these cards seated in here, and before I move this unit up to by the camera, just to kind of show how the cards go in. And the 3845 is where it's the higher chassis. There's also the 3825, I believe. I don't think it's the 3820. That is the shorter unit. And which, you know, could have the same, less of the same adapter types, same level of processor, and well, I don't know. For the bigger unit, I think they probably expand the capabilities of the processor and make it so it's able to handle more of a full load of cards. On these, you had to go through, and it had a particular load rating for the cards too. In other words, you couldn't overload. And it's been great because she hasn't been talking. Now that I've been looking down, I haven't been told about the microphone muting and things like that. It still looks like my level's real good. And that's good because I'm not paying attention so much to the chat right now. Okay. So get the right. And as I bring this forward, I'm actually using the screwdriver to bring out one of the additional cards I have in here. Kind of this is extraneous. I could put a blank in here for the moment, but I'll give my reasoning for this as well. So this is the just a fast Ethernet. So it's got the 1FA2W. So just this doesn't have the token ring side of this, but it has the 2 spots for the wick. I think I even got this for checking to see, hey, maybe is this card with the fast Ethernet the same as this other one with the fast Ethernet, just having the token ring components removed off of it. And I mean, these are mostly populated. And it does look like, I mean, you guys can review the video later on, but probably some of the unpopulated components here are probably for the token ring side. So this was kind of a nice thing to have. And of course, the page at the Arden tool that I linked earlier, that has the fast Ethernet interface, the token ring. I thought there's a page that was going to go up about the and maybe it's just not linked in or something. And I haven't had Major Tom come on this morning on the stream to really say. A little bit dusty in there, not too bad still for where I've had these. And I plan to use the fast Ethernet as well, beyond buying it. I've got kind of a plan that I can elaborate, and I searched around last night looking for the what I'm probably going to use to do that plan as well. Okay. And so this is a bit of overkill for this big Cisco router. And this thing is heavy. Hopefully it won't be too bad on me as I go through and try and move this thing up. I could go through and zoom in as well. But this is probably better for me rotating around. So you can see how that sits in, how those cards in. And it actually has an extension on the side of these full-sized boards, that there's cards that are actually a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, that also fill in this area of the blank. And that area of the blank is actually a rail system that's removable, that just if you had the and it's got it's got a bus designed by Cisco back in the body of the unit. And as you see there, I've got the 1 blank, the fast Ethernet, the 4 megabit per second token ring, and with the 4 megabit, 16 megabit token ring with the 10 megabit Ethernet. That's how these cards are different on the bottom here. This being the fast Ethernet interface, and of course the token ring 4 megabit, 16 megabit. And a little bit of the overkill of doing this. It's got other ports built in. It's got a console port that hopefully we could get to the point of using for the stream, and an aux port. Plugging into that console port with the system to configure this. Even has USB connectors there for the configuration. Has the board in there I'm not even real familiar with the Cisco stuff to know all the what they call particular devices, but really the saving the configuration on some of these cards, it's actually memory modules, and then you have spots for the WIC cards even on top of there. There's 4 spots, and you have a gigabit interface, if I can get this maneuvered right, and even an SFP port in there for that gigabit side. I have to make sure I don't fall off my chair here. That'd be entertaining. Okay. So even 2 gigabit interfaces, one being electrical and the other one being having the SFP port to be electrical or even fiber. And I use these SFPs on my network too. At home, I do trunk fiber around. I'm going to do kind of effectively the backside, and it's interesting for these units that it's got the interface connectors on one side, and then this would be the normal way that you'd expect to see it in the rack. And over on the left there, it's got a input for an AC power supply, and then on the right, it's got for the DC. And the reason I know that this unit hasn't been on in decades, and even after getting the AC supply, I still haven't powered this up. Getting my exercise this morning. That this unit had the DC supply in the primary position here and had a block out for the other spot. These are redundant power supplies, and so it didn't have a way of powering it by AC. And I don't have a conventional way of powering this by 48 volts DC as well. So I got the power supply, and this is there's also additional power supply that does the PoE power. And I just have a standard AC supply. Do not have the PoE. You could have boards in there that use that PoE side, even in the sense of a switch. Normally, I think there's even a provision for you can pull out both sides of these adapters, and they had a full-sized switch assembly, a card that was super wide that could go in these in that slot effectively. So really kind of an interesting concept of going to very modular on the part of Cisco to do that. Now, again, this is a little bit of overkill having a big router like this to do token ring bridging. There's been token ring bridging. I have another unit. I should have pulled it out. I think I've had videos in the past that covered it. That it is just a simple one-to-one bridge from the token ring network over to Ethernet. And it's a real interesting interface as it is that's on that device. It's an InWays 2210, I think. There's information at the Ardent tool on that as well. There's simpler ways of going through. We did the internet connection sharing. I've got a video or videos on that early on my channel, even a year or two old now. I go through and I share one token ring network, the interface for that, over a Windows system, Windows 2000 system, that goes through, actually, went back to, I want to go to VGA, because this is I have my Netfinity system down here running Windows 2000, having token ring interfaces, a token ring interface, a single token ring interface, and of course Ethernet. That it actually is connected up to both networks. I could even do a bridging sort of setup for it. Actually, let's see how I can do the camera. So this big unit down here of being my Netfinity 7000, okay? Get to see a little bit of my shop floor and everything else. The big unit down at the bottom being the Netfinity 7000. And then on the top, I have got my token ring hub. And we'll talk a little bit about it as well. And it's conventional too. I mean, it's called a hub, but it is still the aspect where, yeah, it's still probably, that's a pretty good view, I guess. Putting that back. So really, I have, I was going to go through and on the Netfinity 7000, going to try out various ISA or PCI. It actually has ESIA bus as well, and there's a few token ring boards that are built for that on this system, but it's my DHCP server for the token ring network, in that it's connected into the hub and issues address. I've got all the PCMCIA cords, all the mess that you saw down there. Normally that was for me testing all my token ring. It's going to be, the token ring PCMCIA adapters on ThinkPads. ThinkPads were an easy way for me to set up the token ring network at the start and go through. And I want to even test. There's like 6 different PCMCIA token ring adapters that's running on those ThinkPads. I was wanting to even compare those and see what the performance changes were between those. But the aspect, as I said early on, you can't mix the 4 megabit token ring with the 16 megabit token ring. They have to be the separate, what they call ring speeds, have to be on separate networks. And it's not like Ethernet where you can plug in that 10 megabit, that 100 megabit, or that gigabit interface to have them basically run off the same Ethernet switch. So if I bridge token ring, I'd only have the chance with the single ways of going through there and bridging the 16 megabit per second probably to Ethernet. But also on older systems, I could go through and have the 4 megabit per second token ring. And that's even particular at the PC level and things like that. They've got, even though they had the 16 megabit capable adapters that came along for the 8-bit interface, but those early PCs, XTs, going through and having 4 megabit adapters. Some equipment out there, is 4 megabit per second, of wanting to also go through and have the ability to bridge that as well. So as I showed on the cards, I'm actually looking at the 4 megabit being bridged over to 10 megabit Ethernet, and then setting this for the 16 megabit, bridging that over to 100 megabit per second Ethernet. And we'll just have to see how involved it is. It's going to be interesting for all that, of me firing up the system, breaking into the config, and seeing what's there to how it's recognized. Go through and so, we might even go through and extend this stream just so we have an idea. I know the setup for that, the ThinkPad is going to take a little bit of time to go through and connect up to the console port and all that. But, maybe to go through and power this thing on for the first time ultimately, being the fact that I've never powered it up in the whole time I've had this, yet even with the AC supply, to never examine that config, never knowing what the firmware level is on this, whether there's even a newer firmware or anything like that that's would have been out there. Um, but I'm certain that whatever level's on here, it's very capable, and it goes through and configures the boards that are in there, figures out what they are to go through and be able to configure this thing. Now, the older configuration was with those fiber, that fiber interface card in there. So we'll have to see how the unit reacts to that being changed out as well. So it's a little bit of cowboying, and I don't know if there's more of a defined way of going through to dramatically change the configuration on these by maybe going back to more of a base unit and then plugging in the cards later on as you work to get them configured. But I've seen Cisco units where you put the cards in there, of course, with the unit powered down and powering up to see, to go through and adjust the configuration of the Cisco router going through and recognizing those boards. Now, a little bit of this blank here and having this fast Ethernet card in here, I'm even thinking down the road here. I searched for it last night, couldn't find it, but looking for an FDDI board. And I actually did bring my FDDI adapters here. I would do a very similar setup to like for the token ring that I'd have an adapter on a PCI adapter on the NetFandy 7000 issuing network addresses for that. And of course I would have to have a switch. But that being, as I can show those adapters of, and those have a variety of bus interface types as well. But even thinking of taking this router a step further and also bridging FDDI over to the 100 megabit per second Ethernet. And the FDDI runs at 105 megabit per second fiber. It's an adapter that's in there and actually has a specialized fiber sort of connection. But I'll see if this unit can handle something like that, or what level it Cisco covered for that, and then go through and if there's an adapter out there to find one. I'm guessing it maybe doesn't have that mixed in with the a fast Ethernet interface additionally on that card. So I have the extra fast Ethernet board here to do the bridging on that. That'd be a future exercise. Now, of course, I haven't been going the whole time. I came in late. We've been going almost an hour here, but let's go through probably to the next stage. Let's get a console cable, and probably what I can do is before I pull a ThinkPad out, I can maybe try with another laptop I have here, a newer laptop. And I haven't even configured this. In fact, I'm trying a different sort of console cable from USB. I've got the, if we could do from a ThinkPad, just over a standard, with a ThinkPad having a built-in serial port, to going to the console cable, that'd be the console connection on the Cisco. That would be great. Now, answering for the power supplies, you can have both a 48 volt DC and AC power supply. I mean, these are redundant here. You can have both of these in there. I could have a 48 volt DC power source as well, connected to this, and them being redundant from between the two. And that's an interesting option I may do later on if I get up. I'm looking at maybe for my equipment room at home, for the ability to have where that 48 volt DC finally, I could go through and host this unit with a supply like that. But running it from the single AC supply for now is probably fine. Let me see. Hmm. I don't know. And this one I've used for my wow, and it's got an imprint of the dust of the keyboard. So it being closed, but having dust come into the room to be up there on the this is actually a touchscreen even. Um, but I think that this has power. I don't know if I've done updates on this lately or what the response is going to be for it. We're going to go through. I'm going to go through to an AC supply. I don't think my Chromebook would be able to host that USB adapter either. That might be an interesting thing for the shell. Okay. Oh, I have other kinds of HP power supplies elsewhere. Let's see what this thing has for power. Might as well try and get it on. Okay. I know I have supplies for that elsewhere. That's dead. Okay. What I do have a supply for, and maybe going through just being a little bit more on the context of IBM or Lenovo. I do have my Lenovo Yoga here. This runs Windows 10. Being a touchscreen as well. That being kind of, I have to remember the power switch on these. Have to see how the supply for that runs. And we'll have to go through, and I hear the configuration. I typically use the prolific USB to serial. This is I think this is the better interface, or the chip that's different from the prolifics on this one. I do have some of those other console cables. As I say, going to a ThinkPad with a built-in serial port might even be the better way to do things too. As I go through, I just want to see the initial. We may have to go through and bring out one of those old ThinkPads if we're not going to get a response from these systems otherwise. Okay. I might just get ready for that. Okay. Yeah, if we're not going to, oh, okay, I see a mouse pointer. Who knows how long this is going to take? Okay. So, okay. Okay, and that just prompted me for a pin. This is actually set up through the Microsoft interface. Now, the other reason for me pulling some ThinkPads in here, I did bring up more than one. As I said, this is the NetFini 7000 being my DHCP server. And this having, it's got 4 Pentium Pros, the 1 megabyte cache Pentium Pro versions, 200 megahertz And that would be for the point of seeing the DHCP services. So, seeing there hasn't been any ThinkPad that's been connected to this, but going through to where seeing it issue out addresses to the ThinkPads that were on the network here. But there's the DHCP server running for it. We're getting just a moment for the updates. This is probably going to take me through some sort of Windows update cycle and prompt me for installing Microsoft Edge on the system. We can see that the DHCP, finish setting up your PC. Not that we didn't have our PC set up before. There you can see some of the DHCP entries as it goes through. And no, I don't want Edge. I just want to get into Windows. Use Microsoft's recommended browser settings. And we're going to say no, we don't want to update our settings for about the 14th time as it goes through. And try Microsoft trying to interject using Edge. Let's look at chat here a little bit. Yeah, and I've got some good answers in chat over the span that I haven't read. Cables or media converters. So I do have some media converters. I've got some good cables. Going through on the token ring adapters, of course, I should have brought some more token ring adapters in the cabling up here. I've gone over those in the past as well. I don't know why it's wanting to add my Microsoft account. We'll go through Microsoft Authenticator, which I really recommend. If you work with Microsoft accounts, get the Authenticator app. So let's go through. Too small for people to read the number for the Authenticator app. Hopefully this process won't go through too long. I wanted to get in at least initially. Oh gosh, OneDrive. Hope this is not going to be, and even the selections that I have. Okay, I'm all done. And I'd have the ability to use the Cisco cable if I were to go through on this. And I've got one of those, like I say, but let's go through. I just want to see, and I'm even guessing what I might have for a communications. Oh, probably would have been good to have PuTTY on here otherwise if I didn't. Do I have PuTTY? Okay, let's get this on. I think it's got on the wireless network. We do have a cable. And again, I apologize for me being very unprepared, as it were. Really, as it is, go through, and I might as well just jump in, from how I could have gone through, and last night I could have tested a little bit more of the stuff and made sure that I had the means to do. And even this system, I don't think I've had it fired on. It's probably Chrome updates. There's probably other stuff. I might have just been better pulling out one of the ThinkPads to go through. In fact, let's do that. Let's use this time. Um, I don't know why it's prompting me to shop Lenovo. Maybe in the time for Chrome to launch and everything else, I can get a ThinkPad. Okay. Because I want to even get a unit on the token ring side of things. I have the cables to interconnect. Okay. We're just going to go right on top of the Cisco unit. This, I think, is even, this one has, this ThinkPad has Windows 98 on it. So I think we'll do Grand. Yeah, Windows 98 SE. Even there, with the CMOS battery and everything else, as I have these old tag sheets around with my units. This has got and we probably want to do the token ring adapter prior to starting it up. Okay. Okay. And that's all cabled in otherwise. We're going to go through, it's probably going to prompt us for saying the clock. Okay. F1. Okay. Entering the IBM. I was going to go through and on the more newer system, I was going to see if I could even get PuTTY installed. And normally that's what I do on a lot of my systems. So I put in, okay. I have PuTTY installed on a lot of systems, and I should have had a system ready. Okay. So, date time. Going all the way back to 1980. Put 2023 for some reason. I know we're in 2024 by now. And not that it matters for exact time. Oh, my Netfinity, I didn't adjust it for daylight savings time yet even. And through to where exit saving changes. Okay. And sorry, I haven't been participating in chat. I've been seeing some good information there as well. And again, not that it matters much for the exact time frame. Okay. I may have both of these kind of come in. Okay, so it identified, it found the token ring PCMCI adapter. I've probably used this system before with the PCMCI adapters, but that's the beauty of Windows 98. It's not even connected to a network. Going through and identifying the token ring adapter that I have in there. I've got a number of them down here, and going through, and I need to test these out a little bit more and things like that. Okay, and then it does want to restart the system with the token ring adapter being in there. Okay. So again, apologize for being and we could have gone through. And did I have where? Okay. Okay. I'm even getting the music playing here on my Windows 98. I'm going to go through. I'm going to plug in a USB mouse into here somewhere. I should have a USB connector, at least one. Yeah, one USB connection. Okay. To get a little bit more capable mouse, to get this little tiny ThinkPad mouse. Okay. Now I'm not doing any bridging from the token ring network right now. I'm just going through and okay, there's my address pool. I should have looked to see, do I have, and ultimately these will be ways of going through and just verifying that the bridging does work once it's all set up. Okay. Get down to my network. I didn't see where I got an address. Okay, so TCP/IP. And I may have to refresh. I don't know why there's other entries in here as well for the token ring. Okay. And let's do an IP config just to see. Okay. So here I have where the token ring adapter that shows up pretty good. So the Ethernet adapter not having the cable plugged in, of course, does not get anything set up, but I do have an address from the DHCP server. And I don't know why it's not showing up on the Netfinity for the address leases. I'm trying to do a refresh. Okay. Okay, I had to do a refresh rather than jumping around between. I'm thinking that jumping around between the selections would go through. Oh, I don't want to zoom in that close. But... Okay, so when I did a refresh here, I can see the address that this ThinkPad was assigned from the DHCP server. Okay. Yeah, we may just have to abandon this for the newer system, seeing how we can get something going on. And there's nothing. This may just work out a lot better anyway. Okay. Now for Windows 98, should have a terminal program. We've got this unit's got the hard serial port. You know, this light blue cable being the Cisco cable that's around. Otherwise, you know, it has the DE9, the 9-pin connection serial being plugged in that, and then going into the console connection of the Cisco. And get to the point where, okay, not to get to where I'm not affected by the glare either. And even get on my reading glasses, not trying to block the view here. Okay, so dial-up networking. We should have. I thought we would have had like hyper terminal or. With Windows 98. Hyper terminal. How come I don't see any? A hyper terminal folder, but it's empty. Is that even to where the hyperterminal had to be installed? Okay, accessories. Because I know hyperterminal was a separate. Yeah, it's unchecked. So hopefully that won't take too long to add. But we're just stumbling all through the hiccups here. And thankfully it's got, from the Windows 98 second edition perspective, has the to go through and install the additional Windows components effectively. And I mean, that was quick compared to even some of the okay, communications, hyperterminal. Excellent. Okay, we're in the United States of America. And install a modem. Now, I think that, yeah, this does have a built-in modem. Let's see if that detects that, even though I'll be flipping it over to the even though I'll be flipping it over to the com whatever communications port. Okay, didn't find modem, so I'll have to go through and set up that manually at a later point. I typically call the direct. Okay, so it has direct to com. We'll have to go through and okay. Device manager. Okay. So that modem is unrecognized. I'm on COM1 is the built-in communications port here. Okay. So our direct to COM1 is good. Normally it has your settings. Okay. So I believe for the Cisco unit, it's probably 9600 8-in-1 is what I would believe that would be. People can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. And we've got to go through on the other side of this and power up. So we are doing a little bit of what I announced the topic was for. We'll at least get to the point where we should see this unit. Okay, and it actually does have a switch. So I've got it plugged into power. It's coming up, Ronmon. And so there's actually a utility there's a way to break into a Cisco configuration as well. Of course, it being locked down for security. And if we have to do that, we'll just cycle the power. And it's like I think it's like a control break. And at least I think I have, I'm reading the chat comment from Hugh saying, Dave, hi David, your enthusiasm and knowledge here keeping me fascinated. Well, I maybe have the enthusiasm, or trying to have the enthusiasm, but my knowledge, I haven't worked with Cisco gear in in some time. So now we're getting about an hour and a half into the live stream. Hopefully everybody else is entertained like Russ. It's gonna be like Hugh. I know Russ is there, and I've got a number of viewers. It looks like I've got several that have spoke up. Yeah, it's like a control break, I believe, and so it's finding all these interfaces. Okay, and right on top of the unit, look pretty good. And of course, it's not being plugged in or anything else. I don't have any cable connections. That might be one of the next steps to go through. I do hear clicks for like maybe that might be from my hub. Okay, more than one failure with the power system too, or this power system has been turned off. That's probably commenting on the 48-volt DC supply. And we can see the date. It's giving January the 1st of that, and the time. So the time the clock of this Cisco unit, of course, being off as well. So it looks like it's going to cycle with this about this power system. I'm going through and I'm giving it a okay. So I pressed enter to get that prompt, and I'm of course relaying that there's not going to be any proprietary information here that I have to conceal, anything like that. But yeah, it keeps flipping on that power angle. Okay, so username, the timeout expired. So probably what I want to do is I want to restart this and give it that control break sequence to get into the running config. And you have to do this at a particular time frame as it comes up. Okay, so we're in the ROM mod. I did control break, and I'm even trying to think if we do. Let's do a question mark because, okay. So the going through here, at least we're into the system. Let me zoom in, and I may have to. I'll have to probably go from here to do a study of a Cisco refresher. But I'm going to give it the question mark again so it repeats the screen. Okay. So all the programming that we can get into at this point, but at least we have a screen. I could go through for I wanted to see the earlier. Okay. So I have alias, boot, break, configuration of the register utility, continue exiting a downloaded image, context, display the context of a loaded image, cookie, DEV, DR, DIS, serial download of a program module, frame, help, which is accessed by the history here, history, IO memory default, set IO memory %, memory info. We can probably give the memory info and because I'm ultimately looking at a way to go through and actually reset the password and to go through and start configuring this. Otherwise, of course, not being able to be covered by this live stream probably for how involved that's going to be. But main memory size 256 megabyte in 72/0. So that sounds like it's got one DIMM slot field, maybe. Print out info from last system return. One of the commands that I could run. But there it provides some information. So like I say, it's at a step of going through and me setting resetting effectively the configuration password and going through to being able to start configuring that and seeing even from what is possible for the token ring interfaces and going through and programming them, how that bridging can be done. We have our newer station at least come to the point of the PuTTY install and profit name for that. But I'll get it. There would have been no gain using PuTTY because we would have got to the same screen information here it's been a long time since I worked with the Cisco stuff. For all the recognizing all the different interfaces and things like that of how we've got it set up, it did that pretty good. But I think that I'll have to go further to figure out how to get into that config T mode to go through after I reset the password to be able to work with this more. And it's going to take me a little bit of just a refresher course to get a little bit further. I don't know how I'll carry that through for the purposes of necessarily of a live stream or anything else or a later video. But this is getting further. This machine being powered on for the first time in a couple decades, probably. Well, at least one, maybe a little bit more. And just me not knowing how it would react or what to expect on that. But this is a little bit of my plan of reviving this project, of trying to have one unit. I could have multiple units that bridge the different token ring networks and everything else. But just think on down the road, if I could have this one device go through bridging the 4 megabit per second token ring, 16 megabit per second token ring, the possibility for that FDDI adapter being bridged to the fast Ethernet here. So this all being handled basically on this router and building that out, having that on the network for being able to work with the token ring and bridging to token ring. As we see, my hub and the NetFandy 7000, this has been my area of trying to get the token ring stuff set up to where I would have the DHCP server and for those token ring networks, because I'm able to have more than one token ring board in on the NetFandy 7000. I can run one as 4 megabit per second and the other as 16 megabit per second. I just have the 16 megabit per second token ring interface in there right now, and the possibility of even doing the FDDI interfaces in there, if I have a device like that, because that would be another way for me to network some machines, and I would ultimately have to bridge over to Ethernet to be able to connect into the network to go out basically to the internet wise. But I could even set up the DHCP server on the NetFandy 1000 to go through for that fiber interface, that FDDI side of things too. So I think probably the steps from here, I want to go through and I want to pull in the those adapters from the car. I didn't bring more token ring adapters or anything like that. I'll go through when I start to work with this, working with the ThinkPads on the token ring network connected up to the hub. I'd like to go on this hub, and this is actually a and then I draw a blank when I talk about the model number and everything else. And this has Unshielded Twisted-Pair for the hub. I've shown this in previous videos. This is actually an 8239. And my intention on that too is if I can break this into VLANs to go through, just like an Ethernet switch, effectively managed switch, to go through and have half of this, because it's got so many ports here. It's got ultimately 32 ports that if I can go through and have, half of those is 16 megabit per second, and the other half being 4 megabit per second. And I just have to see if VLANs is possible. And of course, that is going through, and that's not bridging between or not connecting. It's treating those as two separate networks for the, because you can't connect up both the 4 megabit per second and 16 megabit to the same ring. But having the ability to go through there and running both, or I just bring in another MAW for the, bringing in a standard 8228 MAW, token ring MAW for the 4 megabit connection side. I don't know how elaborate I'm going to get on the 4 megabit side as compared to the 16 megabit, but going through and getting that running as well. Now, as I may have discussed in that initial section about bridging token ring and things like that, Ethernet cards are pretty hard to find nowadays for the microchannel interface. Token ring being common, and even for that aspect of 16 megabit per second being faster than 10 megabit per second Ethernet. And I think that token ring is a way to go networking PS2s with a microchannel interface, multiple systems, but then having these bridge devices over to Ethernet to connect up to home network. This has other potential too. This is an aspect of a device that I'm thinking of a way to go through minimizing, shrinking down this and putting modern electronics to be able to go through and have a bridge device to Ethernet from that device to go through, and also the potential to do other things once you get those PS2s on the network, of them being able to perhaps do a little bit of adjusting a configuration, but also booting over the network, of having to where you don't have to have local drives that function anymore. The diskette drives that fail, these hard drives that fail. There are solid state alternatives, and there's GoTex for replacing the diskette drives. But going through and booting over the network, we've had, times I've shown, or even other videos that are out there on the internet on the iClass, of booting over the network and going to that, loading that operating system on that to the PS2 or whatever system that you're working with, to go through, and you don't have to even have local drives on that system anymore to go through and boot to even those older DOS versions or Windows versions, for that system to be, a perfectly functioning system to do whatever task in that old school environment. Let me bring in the FDDI adapters and just kind of show a little bit of those, and then I think we can probably conclude the live stream. Just having to go a little bit further. If I would have seen a little bit more standard Cisco configuration I was used to, or kind of remembered a little bit more of that knowledge, I could start pulling up the configuration and looking at those interfaces to see how it's entered. But Cisco is bound to have made that easy in some form of, if it's got the token ring and the Ethernet interfaces, or effectively the fast Ethernet interface on these modules, these self-contained modules that plug into a host system, there's got to be the potential for bridging easily between these modules, or bridging between those networks, all from that single module. That's what these modules are designed for, is, with both token ring and Ethernet / fast Ethernet interfaces, is the intent to bridge those networks, to set up this device to handle that functionality. So let me go grab those adapters. Okay, and as I have them labeled here, I've got my address below, but I've recently pulled these out. I don't mean to reveal anybody else's address of where I got this box from. This box, of course, I didn't have all these adapters sent to me in this box, but this is how I've organized them later on, after I have received them. In fact, oh yeah, I'd love to talk to this guy at some point again. With the nature of the work that he does, he's gone a little bit out of communication. So reaching into the box, just starting to latch on. I do have anesthetic bags in here as well, but just starting to grab stuff in the way it's organized. There's some IBM adapters in here. There's other stuff, but here is an FDDI, a fiber there for that. It's got the transceiver here. And these boards, they're documented up there at the Arden tool. We've got information from that Thomas has compiled. I probably need to get him some pictures of this stuff. Now, it's got even connections for a daughter card and things like that. All these adapters basically look the same. Ultimately, these are like I'd have to look on the Arden tool to find out. I just packed this box today in the idea that, yeah, I'm looking at setting up a bridging to that. Now, I mean, with these in the microchannel interface, this being effectively the fastest conventional networking building that we would have on microchannel. Even the single Olicom supposedly 100 megabit per second Ethernet card is not truly 100 megabit per second, but these FDDI are supposed to be at 105 megabit per second. We can see that, not just for running the 16-bit system, but being a 32-bit microchannel adapters. I've got 3 of that type. Network peripherals, if I just read on there. And there's bound to be a link at the Arden tool that I could bring up for that, for these adapters. So 3 of those. Now to get constructive with how I move these around. Now this one, it even has a made in Germany. And this has got the daughter card even on it. This, like a sidecar. And And, look how thick that is for that, taking up two available slots, microchannel. And going through, I'm sure there's information, and you can see those tagged with the red and the blue. But redundant rings, ultimately, this is not in a token ring sort of setup, and you do have to have FDDI switches to interconnect these devices and things like that too. But that's got the ability right off for the redundant ring, effectively, for this fiber network as well. And this board, I don't know. Again, I'd have to look up on the Ardentool to figure out which one that is. Nice, shiny. These are boards that I got 20 odd years ago. Probably even more. And I think they weren't necessarily that high of cost or anything like that. But it's time to go through and get these into, beyond getting pictures to them, getting documentation on them, but to get them into service. So I think this is an IBM. No, it's a 3Com. So there's ESIA. This is a card that I could put in. Granted, I could find the drivers for it, but I could put that in the NetFendi 7000 since it's an ESIA machine. So, wouldn't that be wonderful for that side of the link? And then going through to where, with this adapter, serving up DHCP addresses from it. But so there's the 3Com. It's an FDDI link, and that is an ESI interface. Okay. We even have, I think this one is near. Okay. So again, my address, I think it's a commercial address. Otherwise, well, I'll just go ahead and block out this entire one. So IBM FDDI fiber base ISA adapter, effectively brand new in box. So we got the IBM box. It's funny, it's got probably from an eBay listing me as IBM Museum, just shortening it down to museum, and probably something to do with the auction number or something else of tracking, setting aside that package to where they could get to me. This box is it's mostly or in relatively good shape still, but going through to where option diskettes, need to archive those, manuals for scanning, installation and test instructions direct from IBM. Going through to where, of course, the ISA adapters, the dip switch settings. But this ultimately being that new old stock. And I did do on the microchannel group, I had done some pictures and talked about finding the box of adapters recently. But there's been the plastic insert of this dust cover for that fiber. Even kind of gold looking AT&T. But that being the ISA bus design. And even the sense for a daughter card connection of some form, probably for that redundant ring that this would be on. But this being, direct from that being an IBM adapter. New old stock, probably never used, never plugged into a system. And it's time to go through with the option diskettes of archiving this data. I can plug this into some system and go through and and test it, hopefully going through and bridging it through the Cisco network. Wouldn't that be amazing just to kind of have that to where it could be effectively network enabled for something like that? And I'm guessing, certainly not at the DOS level. It'd be hard to find DOS level drivers, but perhaps with Windows or even up to the Windows 3.1, Windows 95, Windows 98 level could have drivers for that to be able to effectively run on the system. We're getting into other adapters. Set those aside. I even have an eBay. No. Okay, so let's look at that. Even this is old eBay, and this got addresses on the one side. I can probably... Yeah, it's got even an email addresses. I probably want to not necessarily... And I wouldn't care if it was my own, which is one of them. But there's the seller on the other side, and I don't want to go through and just expose somebody's email address in a public area. I trust everybody that's online here. Wow, my in fact, I need to get to where my screen sharing changed. I need to make sure that I'm how... Okay. So I'm still running on the stream at least. I had my wireless screen sharing change that I'm having. I'll quickly change things around just to make sure that I'm still going live here. I don't know if anybody else noticed an interruption or anything like that, but let me change. Okay, that's probably a good view of what I have net for now. But so there's the bottom of that sheet. This is an eBay from an eBay auction. Thank you for bidding and winning. That the unit price of this IBM FDDI adapter, this new old stock, brand new in box, was $1. And it was $10 for FedEx Ground to get it to me. I paid by PayPal. So I paid $11 total for this adapter, this box here. And FedEx made out better than the seller. That's one of the things of where eBay used to be back years ago. $1. And more expensive to ship the this to me with all the diskettes and documentation. I must have just been the right place at the right time. Probably didn't have any competition. One of those odd networks that were probably for commercial networks back in the day was very good. Let me see if there's a okay. And so here's the date of that in September. Oh, I guess I'm going through and still revealing data. So September the 8th of 2004 is when I did the eBay transaction for that. Isn't that just amazing? Okay, let's go through. This will probably be a stream of about a couple hours long in the end. Okay. So here is two separate cards, and for these interfaces for this, I'm able to tell by these tabs, microchannel interface still. And this is made to be 32-bit. There's no 16-bit notch slot in there to make this to where you can run it on a 16-bit machine. This is 32-bit microchannel. Now the daughter card, as it was effectively, is 16-bit. Okay, and which also fits in if you had a side-by-side 32-bit, slot or whatever, also fits in there. But going through, this is probably a 3174, a controller, basically, mainframe controller attached equipment. That this is a link in, probably the uplink, that you have the redundancy, the A and the B channel. And we can see those 2R. So this is also the RS6000 side. The 2R and 2S. And that B channel, we saw that on the other side, to where it's got that mini DIN plug in there for some sort of feedback or something else or redundancy. But we see, that's an IBM, what IBM made up for the controller. Probably has the functionality on the PS2 side as well, maybe for that, but designed for, it looks like the R6000 or with these tabs not necessarily fitting in a microchannel system. I don't know if IBM really, would have done extended tabs, the guides, to make, this is not so somebody can plug it in. So, oh, this thing doesn't fit. It's more of the notion that these are just extended guides, and going through, that's the daughter card. Less electronics from there, but feeding in from this main system, having some nice stuff that I need to get pictures to Tom. Of these, I thought I was going through. I guess these chips the ASICs are inverted a little bit. But I've got multiple ones of that as well. These are just even that brand new condition. A lot of these are duplicates. I may have even got these in the same sort of supply. Even having these stickers, if somebody went through and pinned in some additional stuff, having those stickers inverted in ways. But I've got, okay. So I've got a few sets of those, even in, the two that I've pulled out so far that have had the daughter card attached. There, the ASIC is not as identified. These silver cap chips are a little bit hard to read. Sometimes it may have been where even that changed a little bit. But having the connector, but I don't have the necessarily the daughter card. Here being another, having a different HP transceiver on it. And these, one of these having the longer extended tab, being the 2R. This one not having that tab, but still being marked as the A channel and 2R. So this being still used in that controller or R6000. I don't want to get my stack too high to tumble over or anything like that. Even this, losing a little bit of the retainer for the heatsink popping up, or who knows if I went through and lifted that to maybe at some point to being able to lift the heatsink and read what the chip is under there, but also being a the same adapter effectively, but as we notice, this still has the tab. It's giving me the identifier of being a 2R, and of course the A channel, or the primary channel. But look at the blue tab here, you know, how short that is compared to some of the other microchannel adapters. But this PCB went an extra length, and there being the tab, and, you know, clearly this being for a PS2, this having the ability to be put in a microchannel PS2 system. Still 32-bit, of course, like all the other adapters. Are these all the same too? Yeah, I've got a bundle of these. So these are, you know, and here's the duplicate channels for, with those tabs again. This tab being on the daughter card being very conventional steel, kind of the what you more you see, but that shorter tab being linked in, having that link, that bridge between them, even in IBM FRU, and the date, May in 1996. So yeah, but it'd be nice to have these in service. I mean, this looks like it's been in use with the bent bracket and things like that. That's being distorted, that B channel. But, you know, wouldn't it be nice to go through and test these and see what the networking abilities of an adapter like this? I've got actually a few more same things of those. So I've got kind of an overload, even have the separate bridging, but going through to where multiple, and who knows what kind of switch I would need to go through and to have to interconnect these. But wouldn't that be so cool to get a network setup of that? Okay. So there's one of the daughter cards separately. Guess a little bit closer for you. Again, an HP transceiver on this. Just for the redundant loop. It's got that copper thieving for an area of the PCB. So that's just so they'd have even flow on the PCB. They populate an area, the grid, and that's not for our shielding or anything like that. Is, you know, that's for the so the traces elsewhere on the PCB would be deposited the same way. You can look up copper thieving and get some information on the construction of those. Okay. For microchannel, the last step of microchannel, we'll look, and who knows, I don't know if I have the invoice of this, but this is another one. This would be still new old stock. I mean, the box is a little bit dinged up and everything else, but network peripherals. So that was the earlier board that we pulled out. Were also network peripherals, high performance FDDI network IO processor. The box being the same on both sides. Okay. So FDDI, microchannel, UDP dual attach. The date, again, in May of 1996. So back when, being made in the USA, of being, these being the commercial connectivity methods, or one that could be used at the high end for that time frame. But still, probably me picking up these parts. Observe precautions for handling electrostatic sensitive devices, of course, clearly. But again, so I can feel the diskette in there. Sealed booklet, network peripherals, MCA ship kit, microchannel. That being the installation manual, never been opened since it's been factory sealed. So you know, I don't know the pricing that I would have got for that, but was probably relatively comparable low. This is still even has a disposable grounding wrist strip, and I have not opened the sealing. This is still the original seal. Of course, I probably have. I'd have to look, you know, and kind of guess under all that shiny electrostatic um, uh, bag to go through and figure out if I've got this. I probably have this adapter separately by what it feels. It feels like the other network peripherals, but probably at that time gaining it for just the installation materials of a new old stock car that had not been used to gain the documentation, because even in that time frame I was like-minded to be that I wanted to gain the materials to be able to archive this sort of material back when. So I even appreciate this going into the show and tell session. This has even gone on for longer than 2 hours. Hopefully able, it looks like I'm still being able to transmit and everything else of going through. So that's been a little bit of the show and tell of these FDII adapters. I have one more. I've got multiple samples of it as well. I'll seal all this stuff up later on after the live stream, taking the point of the electrostatic discharge sensitive devices. But here, and this is another board I could put in the Netfinity 7000. This being an IBM board with the ASIC, that involved ASIC. And as it through time going through, and we could probably get date codes off of these chips and things like that. 98, 43. So the 43rd week of 1998. The PCI version looks like it has a header that possibly they entertained having a daughter card or something else effectively. Smaller transceiver, that being listed as a 9F, so still some PCI based RS6000 possibility. Yeah, 9F. But all these adapters, and I've got 5 of them. I know I intended to show. Okay, at least that's not like surface mount resistors or anything like that. That's the back side of those. But I have 5 of those adapters as well. Probably got them in a group lot. Some of these look a little bit, you know, scratched up with the cards rubbing against each other. Sometimes some of these surface mount devices can come loose, so I have to be careful how it would store those. I probably need to get it in the anti-static bags. Hopefully, you know, the handling in the past was good as well. There's even a IBM. I always get the rotation on my camera, but 75H1307 and IBM 9314. That's where it was produced. What locations? IBM factories, and the 9014 being very common for the areas produced. But ultimately a ball grid array, main chip on that, and then memory as a buffer. But I mean, it'd be so cool to get these adapters on a network. If there's even PC level drivers that are available still, and to get those around. So we're having all the screensavers prop up. I'm going to go through. Let me get back on the built-in webcam. I've been off screen or partially off screen for a long amount of time, and seeing how my situation, my recording system here went through and changed around during the time span. But yeah, it's been a good long stream, well over 2 hours as I went through. Hopefully I went entertained. I just went with the flow and everything else of going through. I didn't chip in on chat. I'll have to go through and review some of that stuff later on too, but hopefully kept people entertained. I mean, it doesn't that it looks like I'm still keeping up with things. My recording system here is doing. What did that do? Did that? I'm not sure what that may have done. That may have actually ended the stream. I don't know, with the way that my system's behaving here. Let's see if I can. Okay. Well. Yeah, let me see if I can resume where. Okay. Still telling me live. I don't know what screen I'm on now, though. I need to get. Okay, that I guess I can pull up, and at least it's still showing me. I just lost my YouTube window for a moment. So, yeah, I appreciate the feedback there, John, telling me the stream is still live and everything else. I'm not just dropping off abruptly and everything. But so, I mean, probably as good a place as any to end things for a long, long stream. Kept up otherwise and just went through and bounced around quite a bit, but that's how it is, I guess. And I'll go through and who knows what the topic will be next week. Maybe I'll be a little bit further with this to show me getting in the system and the Cisco router and configuring a little bit more. Who knows? But this is just a little bit of a stream to get the thought process started on, hey, maybe about these bridging things. So bridging between the token ring, bridging even from those FDDI adapters that I'm showing, of maybe some of that equipment being surplus for like the switches. Who knows? At this point, it maybe has gone up in price to be higher than $1 for an IBM FDDI adapter, and then $10 to ship it to me for new old stock. But you know, it's been an interesting journey for this live stream of going through these things. But I think I'm going to have to cut it to an end at this point, and I look forward to seeing you at the next stream. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. And this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.